Do you ever ignore something small, like stretching or drinking a glass of water or sending that text message, and you just feel heavier by the end of the day?
Yeah, and it's not because the thing was hard. It's because I knew better, and I still didn't do it.
I mean, that's the part that gets me. The weight isn't the task. It's the fact that I ignored my own intuition.
Yeah, it's like you betrayed your own self in these little micro ways, and the brain keeps the score, man.
And today we're talking about that subtle stress, the weight of what you didn't do, and why it lingers and what it means, and maybe how to stop carrying it around.
You know, because it's not the missed push-ups or the skipped glass of water. It's those missed moments that you missed with your authentic self.
Let's dig in.
Welcome to the Nature of Everything podcast with Bo and Clint, where we deep dive into the world of personal development through coin. Confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nature of Everything. I'm Bo and Clint is with me, and we've been discussing something that sounds small, but it ends up weighing more than we realize.
Yeah, it's that invisible weight, that not from what you did, but from what you didn't do. All those little moments you sort of ignored your own inner voice.
And before we get into it, a quick shout out. The Coin Book is officially available online at coinyourlife.com. It's really packed with everything that we talk about here, plus some stuff that maybe hadn't even made it to the mic yet.
Yeah, realistically, we break a lot of this stuff down on the confirm it and owning it and being intentional and changing the nature of everything. It's really your field guide for closing gaps and building that trust within yourself again.
And look, today's a perfect example. We're not talking about giant life overhauls. We're talking about that whisper that you ignored. The one that said, hey, go on that walk, drink that water, or maybe something serious like say what you need to say.
Exactly. And, the truth is that whisper, it's not random. It's your authentic self. So when we skip that, it's not just a missed task. It's a missed connection with who we really are.
Yeah, so let's unpack that. Let's talk about these micro betrayals. The internal dialogue that kicks in after time, and how we can start to show up differently without the shame spiral. Look, I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels like my brain is running a passive-aggressive group chat, and I'm the target. It just feels like you skip a workout, or you don't answer that text, or you forget your vitamins like I did this morning, and suddenly it's that inner voice just sliding in with some snarky ass comment like, nice, I guess we're just giving up now.
Yeah, that's fair, man. It's like a tiny version of you just kind of sitting there in your psyche with a clipboard, like making these notes and documenting all your little missed potential. And it's like they're going to turn you in for an HR violation or something.
Well, I mean, that's the heart of what we're going to call micro betrayals. It's those moments when you ignore that little internal nudge to do something maybe small but meaningful. And it's not just that you missed a task that stings. It's that you ghosted your own intuition.
Man, and realistically, it's like we knew better. You know better. And that part of us that did know better, I'll say that's your authentic self, like raising its hand and pointing at you and saying, hey, there's an issue.
And look, this isn't a new idea. Psychologist Arno Gruen wrote extensively about the psychology of self-betrayal. It talked about how we slowly lose connection with our true selves when we deny our inner voice, and we're doing it just to avoid discomfort or maintain control.
And, from what we were reading, Gruen believed that self-betrayal starts in childhood. So when we suppress what we actually want, or like to fit in, to survive, or to stay liked, over time that inner suppression trains us to ignore the very instincts that could lead us to actual growth.
Look, and that's wild, because when we keep doing that, we literally become suspicious of our own wisdom. Like we stop trusting ourselves.
Yeah, I would say that's when your inner critic goes full Karen and probably starts some pretty unreasonable mental chaos going on in between your ears, man.
Yeah, so here's the practice. When you feel that quiet voice suggesting something like, do the 5 push-ups or drink water, send that damn email. Like, don't ghost it. That's your real self calling you. Like, don't let that call go to voicemail.
Yeah, and I'd say because the more you answer those calls, the less power that little sadistic critic in your head has, and realistically, the more coins you start picking up along the way. So that's why we created Coin, really. If you think about it, it's not just a mindset. It really is that framework and that method, this sort of a 4-pillared framework that helps you get back in alignment with your authentic self.
Yeah, so let's recap. COIN stands for confirm it, own it, be intentional, and change the nature of everything. It's not magical and it's not hype. It's a repeatable practice for working through all the messy stuff in our lives. So let's settle into that. Confirm it. This is step 1 in the COIN framework. And really, it's where most people trip up because they think awareness means judgment. But I don't think it does. Confirming something just means calling it what it is and without shame.
Right. You're not being sentenced in a courtroom. You're just looking around your life and saying, yeah, I haven't done the thing, whatever the thing is. And you know what? I kind of miss myself because of it.
I mean, that's it. We don't need to make it poetic. If you said you'd stretch after lunch and ended up in a TikTok time vortex instead, just name it. That's confirming.
Yeah, it's the practice of noticing without self-attacking. Confirming isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest and kind, really, at the same time. You can say, I've been off lately. I've kind of missed the mark as of late. But I say don't follow that with, well, then I've screwed it all up or I'm the failure now.
Exactly. Because you're not your skipped workouts. You're not your unwashed dishes. You're just a human in progress. You're practicing and you're learning how to show up differently.
Yeah. And I'll also say this. When you avoid that confirmation, it gives your inner critic that extra ammo that it's looking for.
Good.
And that voice starts saying things like, see, told you. We never follow through. However, but I do think when you take that moment and you do confirm what's going on, even if it's softly, even if it's gently for yourself, with grace, with forgiveness, I think you have that chance to interrupt that narrative from the critic, that internal critic that you don't want.
Yeah, the asshole.
Yeah, indeed.
I think I'm feeling a little spicy today. So, but when we look at this, like one of my favorite questions to practice is you could ask, what have I been pretending to not notice? I think that's disarming. It's honest and it's kind of weirdly freeing.
Sure. And wow. And that is a practice, right? So I think some days you'll notice right away and you'll clue into it immediately. But I think other days, I think you'll be halfway through a bag of potato chips. You really wanted some salt and vinegars, right? And you're like, oh, wait, hang on just a second. I'm avoiding the fact that this is not what I want. This is not where the direction I'm heading. So you still can fold the bag up then, but you can't take it as failure.
And look, that's progress because practice means we're not chasing perfection, but we're chasing presence. And that presence builds trust within ourselves again.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a sort of a first move, just name something that you've been avoiding. You know what? I say it out loud. Take that time to confirm it out loud to yourself or write it down. If it's first thing in the morning and you are taking the time to journal, write it down. I don't know. Text it to yourself if you have to. Send yourself an email note.
Yeah, because you can't get anywhere new if you're still pretending you're somewhere else. You have to confirm it. But with compassion, and then we'll move forward from truth and not from pressure or from what that inner critic is saying.
Fair enough. So I'd say this and ask yourself just, the simple question, like what's one small thing I've been avoiding? And what is it that I know would help me feel more like myself, feel more authentic?
Yeah, that's it. It could be as tiny as putting your shoes by the door so that you'll go on that walk tomorrow.
Fair enough.
Or texting someone back or drinking that glass of water. It's probably sitting next to you already.
Yeah, that old dusty water bottle you keep meaning to use. Yeah, go ahead. Take a sip. We're not judging.
But now here's the second part. Say it out loud or write it down, not in your head. Like, find that place like Clint said and put it somewhere. Make it mean something. Scribble it on the Post-it note. Just make it real.
Sure, because realistically, that's that practice of confirming. So I really still think that that's all it takes to get started is a question to yourself and a name for what you've been avoiding. The power isn't in necessarily fixing it today. The power is, I do believe, in noticing it and being aware, confirming that it is present. And once you've done that, I think that's where you get your next step.
You've confirmed it and you've named that thing you've been dodging. And that little whisper you keep ignoring, you just sort of confirm those things. But now we're going to move into own it. And this is really where it gets real.
Sure. This is the part where most of us start, that negotiations within ourselves. Like, do I really, is this really me? Is this mine? Do I really need to own this?
Yeah. That's the moment when I decide that, I need to clean my car out. Or I need to, research how to grow basil in the windowsill. Like, because I don't want to face that thing.
Okay, so to that end, like some time back, I made a decision to start journaling consistently. Like nothing crazy. Again, it's not about a tortured artist or all kinds of crazy poetic stuff. It's not necessarily that, and it's not always dramatic, and it's not always just full of emotion, but it's just a space for me to meet myself on a daily basis. I'm not consistent necessarily as far as every morning or every afternoon or specific time. It really is, me taking that moment to find within the days to address myself. And at first, I got to admit, it was tough. I almost tried to avoid it like jury duty, but,
that's consistent. What I do.
I know.
I set the vibe, light that candle. I open the journal, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, you know what? I need to rewire the garage or alphabetize my Spotify playlist.
Yeah, but I'll say this. Here's what changed for me. I really did start owning it, and I realized I wasn't avoiding the act of journaling or documenting. I was avoiding what might come up. I did have to face some things. Again, it's not all the time. It's not some back-breaking emotional moment at every turn. But there were times that, thoughts that I didn't want to sit in and deal with, I would often basically kind of have this idea that they were feelings that I didn't have time for. Yeah.
And you know what? That's really still where I can get stuck. I want that practice and I believe in it, but I really still dodge it. And look, I don't think it's because I'm lazy. I think it's because showing up on the page sometimes might mean that I, am showing up to stuff I'd rather just outrun.
No, and I get it. But here's the grace that's allowed in this. You can still own it without having it all figured out or mastered, as it were. I've made journaling a regular practice at this point, but not because I've finally gotten, disciplined. It's because I've kept kind of getting curious, and I learned to notice when I'm avoiding it. I can feel it, and I'm starting to also feel when I'm avoiding it. I'm starting to realize why in some areas.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because that's really what own it is. It's not fix it now. It's let's tell the truth about this. I'm not doing the thing, and here's why. And here's what I might need to do to make a better decision next time.
Yeah, and I'd say owning it creates space. It takes you from like that self-blame to more of a self-relationship. You stop being like this drill sergeant yelling at yourself internally, and you start being, and you start being on your own team. You're your own teammate.
Yeah, that really calls to me to kind of ask myself, what have I been pretending is no big deal? That actually does kind of matter to me.
Sure.
What story have I been telling myself about why I can't follow through?
Well, and importantly with that, can you meet that story with curiosity instead of criticism and fear.
That's good.
Because I think sometimes the thing we need to own isn't necessarily a piece of failure, but it's probably whatever the underlying fear is associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to own it, not to shame ourselves, but to see ourselves. Sure. And that's how you build trust in yourself again. That's how you stop ghosting that authentic you. And look, I'll say this before we move on. I'm going to give journaling another real try. And I'm not trying to hit a streak or write a masterpiece, but I just want to practice showing up like that, one honest page at a time.
Well, look at you. It's like somebody needs to call Target and Walmart and let them know the journal aisle's in trouble because Bo's back in town.
Hey, easy. But yeah, like, I mean, I sometimes miss hearing from that part of me that can show up when I write. You know, that guy's got some really important things to say. Hey,
and that's fair. And you know what? I know that. I know that about you, and I hope that, I hope your pen doesn't pull a hamstring after all the time you've had it benched and not allowed to play.
It's fine. It's going to be fine.
I said it's fine.
Look, page 1 is coming, and this time I'm not ghosting myself. Page 1, be on the lookout for it.
All right, I'm in.
All right, so look, we've confirmed it. We've owned it. And now we pivot to be intentional. And this is the part where we make a move. And not because we have to overhaul our lives, but because we want to rebuild trust with ourselves.
Let's be very clear. Intentionality doesn't necessarily equate to intensity. It doesn't mean that you're having to go sign up for a triathlon or a marathon, or you're going to, create some type of novel notion from the ground up without assistance. Like, none of that has to be the case. It doesn't need to stress you out more than it ever helps. That's not the reason for it.
Yeah, and we're not saying, do all the things. I mean, I would argue, like, pick one thing and do it like it really matters, because you know what? It does.
Absolutely. Because one small act of, like, follow through is how I think you really show that inner critic, like, the door out, like, get the hell out. You don't need to shout it. You don't need to yell it out on your paper. I think all you really need to get this practice really moving forward is to keep your word just one time a day. Keep your word to yourself, starting once a day, and then build that momentum.
Honestly, for me, I mean, that might be journaling for just 5 minutes and not for 30. Not some deep soul excavation. I mean, just 5 minutes of showing up for myself on paper.
Yeah, I'd say that's the move. And if you're listening, if it's taking that extra walk in the afternoon, or picking up a book and reading for just a moment, sending a message to a friend, like reaching out, whatever it may be, maybe it's even saying no to something that you would usually say yes to, that is unhealthy for you emotionally or mentally or even physically. Maybe it's just standing outside for 2 minutes without being on your phone and soaking up some sunshine, or something that breaks the paradigm, but is something that you are intentional for you.
Yeah, and whatever it is, I mean, I would argue to make it specific and make it easy, make it doable, and make it for you, not your boss or your partner, something that's for you.
And guess what? Here's the secret. You don't need motivation. You need some momentum. And one intentional move creates just enough traction to get that next one in motion, and the next one, and the next one.
Yeah, so today, what's your one thing? Not the biggest, not the scariest, just one thing that's been whispering to you.
I say pick it. Whatever that is, grab onto it. Just do it. And know that is enough.
Just do it.
Do it, right? Because when you move with intention, you're not just doing a task. You're rebuilding that trust within yourself, and you're making a practice that changes everything.
In a world where Bo drinks a single glass of water, clarity and hydration emerge. The man, the mission, The mildly improved mood. One sip to save his sin.
You know what? I'm done with you. That's enough. Oh my God.
I mean,
I'm
but
sorry
seriously.
if you're listening now.
But those tiny actions, they really do add up. And that's what brings us to the final part of coin, the nature of everything.
You know what? This is that part where intention turns into impact. And it's where those small moves start shifting how you see yourself and how you move forward and really how you show up in life.
Yeah, because when you do follow through, even in those small ways, you're not just changing your to-do list, you're changing your identity. You become somebody who listens to their gut, somebody who keeps their promises to themselves and to others. You're building trust from the inside out. You've confirmed what's going on, you've owned the real reason behind it, and you've made some intentional moves. And now we watch what happens when that ripple starts to move outward.
Because realistically, this last part, the changing the nature of everything, it isn't about flipping your whole life upside down. It's about that one tiny shift, and it changes the whole ecosystem, the whole nature of your everything.
Yeah, it's the water in the glass effect. The I didn't ghost myself today energy. You know, suddenly you're showing up different in conversations. You're thinking clearer. Maybe you're less irritated at traffic or your kid or yourself.
Yeah, and maybe more importantly, maybe you're not carrying around the weight of another broken promise to yourself. And you know, I do think that changes everything. The real magic of this step, like you said before, it isn't in the task. It's in the identity shift. You go from someone who should change to someone who is in the middle of change, someone who is progressing, someone who is practicing. And I think that's what's powerful.
You know, it is powerful. And it's powerful because it's earned. You didn't fake it. You practiced it. You made the move. And even if it was tiny, that changes how you see yourself. And also, I think how the world is going to respond to you. So, yeah, maybe it was just a glass of water, or it was just 5 push-ups, or it was, for me, writing a few honest lines in a journal.
Sure.
But those moments, that's where that momentum starts, and that's where the nature of everything starts to bend.
And yeah, like we were talking about before, it's not about motivation because it's not built from hype. It's not from hustle, but it's born from like honesty and from listening to yourself and following through, even if it's just that one time that gets it started. So I think when you do that, you stop chasing that gold at the end of the rainbow that we've talked about, you know, and you start truly realizing that you're picking up the coins along the way to fill your own pot of gold.
I mean, I think this is really powerful stuff. And you know, I think I'm going to take a few minutes today and just sit with it and reflect on where I've been ghosting myself and make sure that I'm actually ready to commit to those things that I say that matter. Like I was talking about journaling.
Indeed. Sure. And that's the work. I mean, there's that practice. And, you know, we hope that you will do the same. Not pressured, but just practice.
Hey, and look, if this episode impacted you in any way, we really would love for you to, find us on social media at Coin Your Life. You can check out our website, pick up the book there, coinyourlife.com. Or if you're ready to build some daily traction, we have a 10-minute daily check-in. It's a free resource, and I think it's really powerful.
And remember, you don't have to overhaul everything. Just confirm it, own it, be intentional, and watch the nature of everything start to change.
I dig it.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out coinyourlife.com and find us on social media.